What are the barriers to innovation in a business? If you're wanting to know what pitfalls you need to avoid to ensure that you're being innovative in your organization, stay tuned. First, we'll discuss what innovation is and is not. Next, I'm going to share the thing that I've seen repeatedly within organizations as a consultant that no one wants to talk about, but I'm going to tell you the truth. Lastly, we're going to overcome the barrier that organizations of all sizes tend to encounter, but can be overcome with a staggered approach. Let's get started. First, what is innovation? Well, when it comes to business, we have to understand that business cycles are shrinking dramatically. Whereas in many of our youth or our parents' youth, businesses could stay around for decades and never have to really innovate. They had great products or services and people loved them for it, and that was it. But now we live in a time of fast-paced change and fast-paced technological advances. And so what's happening is it's impacting businesses of all kinds. For instance, let's think about some of the brick and mortar businesses that we know that have been negatively impacted by an organization called Amazon that many of us use. We think about how organizations have had to adapt because now you can get things delivered extremely quickly without ever having to leave the home. When was the last time that you were in a shopping mall? So I think you can see that there's definitely a need for innovation because business reinvention cycles are shrinking. And so in order to have a business that lasts for years and years to come, we have to change things up based on what's coming at us from a competitive standpoint. I mentioned earlier that I was going to share one of the biggest issues when it comes to organizations innovating that no one likes to talk about, but it's something that I have seen frequently, not just as a consultant, but even in a past life. So, in a past life, I worked in hotels. My degree is in hotel and restaurant management with an emphasis in sales and marketing. And so that's what I did in corporate America for many years. I was a salesperson, was great at being a sales manager, always exceeded my goals, 125% or plus. And then I moved into revenue management because I love numbers too. So I kind of have this quirky personality where I like numbers and people. But one of the things that I noticed is that in my last position in corporate America, there's this little thing called social media that was pretty new on the horizon. I'll never forget in my early 20s going to my boss as I was a revenue manager, the head of a department, and saying, hey, I have some ideas. Now, mind you, at the time, I'm in my early 20s again. He's an older baby boomer gentleman, not that open to change. And I mentioned to him, this social media thing, I have a feeling it's going to be big. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, duh, Crystal. But this is before it was really a thing. Now, Twitter was brand new at the time. MySpace was still in existence. So this should tell you kind of what the atmosphere was. Corporations were not using social media yet. But I said to my boss, I have a feeling this social media thing is going to be big. I said, can you imagine if companies were to get on here? A company can have a conversation with their consumer. Coca-Cola can talk to someone who loves Coke, and they're going to feel like they're talking to Coke. Now, again, now we're like, well, duh. But at the time, it hadn't happened yet. And the idea of this was revolutionary to me. And I'll never forget, my boss looked at me and he said the following: look, kid, you're cute and you make us a bleep load of money. He didn't say bleep, y'all. He said, stick to what you know. And I said, oh. Now, mind you, my next move was, I'm a millennial. I'm an old millennial, but I'm still a millennial. I did a very millennial move. I started my own digital marketing business and quit that job because, we move around. But my point is that you think about how much could it have helped this company, not just this site, but the entire company, the entire portfolio of this organization, if they had allowed me the space, just as a little side project, to investigate how to leverage social media to grow their business. They would have been completely ahead of the curve with everyone else because it wasn't being used that way yet. And so one of the biggest challenges to innovation is the culture of an organization. And mind you, my boss was not where the buck stopped. He had higher ups as well, but he basically completely put out my little fire, my little suggestion. He just dampened my little candlelight. And so it never went any further. And so organizations have to be set up, number one, to encourage innovative thought. Is there someplace on your internal intranet where when people have ideas, they can submit them immediately? Maybe they see a hiccup with customer service, or maybe you've implemented a new technology and it's not working quite right. Is there some place where they can go, where they can input their ideas, their fixes, and the challenges that they're seeing? Maybe if they're hearing customers having the exact same complaints over and over, can they put that in there? And the most important thing is ensuring that department heads aren't there filtering out what they think should be considered, but instead having someone who's in charge of all of these innovative thoughts and figuring out which ones actually solve some of the highest business problems. So, one of the biggest challenges when it comes to innovating within a business is the actual organizational culture itself. Now, I'm going to pause for just a moment and ask you, have you already subscribed to this channel? If not, take a moment and subscribe right now. And even better yet, if you have somebody that's in your circle that needs this information, be sure to share this channel with them as well. One of the more obvious challenges to innovation is lack of resources. And whether you are a small mom and pop business or whether you work within a massive corporation, that can happen depending on the amount of innovation that you're trying to implement at one time. For instance, if you're trying to do a complete overhaul of your technology, that's not just about buying the technology. You usually have to buy consultants, people who are going to tweak it within your system. You need people that can train your people. Now you're upscaling your own people so they can start training themselves and other people in their department. My point is that innovation can be pricey. However, just saying, oh, we can't afford this is not an option because you can't afford to not innovate. That's how you end up being innovated out of an industry, because if you're not finding ways to stay current, I guarantee you have competitors that are. Or it might even not be direct competitors. Think about organizations like Airbnb and Uber that are competing with these massive industries without having inventory themselves. That goes to show you we can't afford to rest on our laurels. And so my suggestion would be, if you do not have the resources to do large-scale innovation, take a staggered approach. You don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to eat your whole dinner with one big bite. You take one bite at a time. So find a way that maybe you can implement some of the innovation you're looking at over a 3-year period, where you're doing reviews quarterly to see if any piece of what you're innovating in the future, maybe it needs to be tweaked a little bit more because things are changing around you. But over time, it's going to keep you innovative. So don't allow a lack of resources to keep your organization from creatively finding ways to serve customers better. The last big barrier to innovation in an organization is a lack of vision, and that is 100% a leadership problem. Not all leadership is empowered to be innovative and creative. Some organizations are set, especially a lot of those that are family owned, where you have somebody that almost dictates edicts and how things are going to run in the organization. That doesn't leave much room for innovation. But then there's even large businesses where you have somebody that maybe they're the CEO, maybe they're the CTO, CMO, whatever senior leadership position they have, and they see their position as one where they dictate what needs to happen, and they're not really that interested in opinions from people outside of themselves and their team, which is insane because it's your frontline people that have the data you need to make the changes you need, because they're the ones who are communicating with your clients and customers. They're the ones that are seeing where the hiccups are happening along the way. They're the ones rolling their eyes because they know that a certain business process you have is inefficient. So if you have leadership that doesn't have a vision of the company needing to stay innovative, so it's not a nice to have, it's a must have. You have to stay innovative to stay in business this day and age. If they don't have that vision and they don't set up a culture, as we talked about earlier, where they welcome innovative thought and where they're not just welcoming it, but encouraging it constantly in meetings. Hey, this department submitted 5 ideas through the system that can help us run better. This department over here, they submitted 3. Congratulations to you all as well. The important thing is for leadership to ask for innovative thought and to build in time to actually go over these creative ideas and find ways to implement them. But speaking of implementing creative ideas to stay current, and not just current, but future-proof, you're going to notice that in the description of this video, there's a link to download my Future Ready Playbook. This playbook was designed just for you to help you, whether we're talking about personally, professionally, or in a business, stay ahead of the curve. It's chock full of all kinds of activities and worksheets that are going to help you start thinking more strategically about the future. If you haven't already downloaded it, do it right now.